Hello, Westside. My name is Kim Lucas Hart, and I am a registered nurse here in Fort Worth. I am also your faith community nurse, also known as parish nurse. The Westside Board approved this role for me back in March of 2020, and together we signed a covenant effective May 1st of 2020. What is faith community nursing? Well, it's a volunteer outreach through Texas Health Resources to support its mission of improving the health of people in the communities that we serve. The goal is to provide health-related programs that are tailored to meet the needs of Westside members and the neighborhood we serve. So what is my job? My job is to assess needs, to improve health literacy, and to support individuals and families in personal and community health. I have a wealth of resources at my disposal through my employer at THR and look forward to serving in this role for years to come. You can reach me at nurse@westsideu.org and more information will follow.
Good morning and welcome to worship with the community of Westside Unitarian Universalist Church, where compassion leads us to work for justice and equality. My name is Tanner Trask and I will be your worship leader this morning. I'm glad you're joining us for our virtual service today, and it is my hope that this gathering will renew your sense of community and connection and nourish your heart, mind, and spirit. Our interim minister, the Reverend Frida Gillespie, has the week off, so today's reflection will be offered by the Reverend Dr. Russell Elleven, our Minister Emeritus. Russell was the settled minister at Westside for 9 years before moving to Chicago, and it's been 8 years since we've seen him in the sanctuary live, so we are welcoming him back with excitement to our virtual pulpit. His reflection is entitled, "Come Join My Tribe." So as always, thank you to our AV team volunteers today. We literally couldn't do this without you. Our host, Caroline Nixon, our co-host, Cindy Fountain, and Jana and Donald Kennard. And of course, our musical guests, which we'll have some special thank yous for throughout the service. At Westside, we are raising the next generation of Unitarian Universalists, and we want them to know that they are an important part of our community. Several years ago, we chose to adopt a multi-generational worship where our services include our children of all ages. Westside is a community of many beliefs, genders, and sexualities, a community of diverse cultural, racial, and class backgrounds, a community of varied abilities and gifts. Some here find inspiration in the great books, others in the great outdoors, and others still in great conversations. Whoever you may be, we welcome you to bring your whole self into this community. If you are so moved, you can try out the chat feature on Zoom by typing in some words of welcome to both members and visitors who are joining us this morning. On behalf of this church community, I say to you all, welcome. Today's order of service is a PDF. A link was provided via email and will also be posted in the chat for you to download. As always, please continue to watch your email inbox for updates on church programs and opportunities. I invite you to take a deep breath. And from wherever you are, settle into this sacred space that we created together. Now, let us worship together as we listen to this morning's prelude. All right, thank you for that music. And our opening words are from the Reverends Joe Von Roo and Lynette Lowe, entitled Being Sanctuary. Welcome to this space, this sanctuary of peace, where we come to not only create our best selves, but to also do the work of creating a beloved community. We come together today as individuals, much like individual pieces of glass or pottery that are different shapes, sizes, and colors, all of which are broken with imperfect, jagged edges, but always beautiful. While our pieces may not always fit neatly together, it is within this sanctuary, guided by our principles, that we gather together to create a beautiful mosaic. May the brokenness and beauty you find in one another create peace in this space and fill our hearts with love as we create worship together. And for our opening hymn, members of the Association for Unitarian Universalist Music Ministries are offering their virtual rendition of Jason Shelton's anthem, King for a Day. We're grateful to Jason for his generous permission to create this video for our opening hymn this morning in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
He had a dream of a world free of hatred and anger. He had a dream of a love beyond race, creed, or color. He had a dream and he gave it to me. What will I do with it? Who will I be? I've got to stand up, shout and be heard. I've got to let my heart guide my words. I've got to steady my speed and say, what would it be like if you were king for a day? He had a dream that all violence would one day be ended. This dream of free. He had a dream that our world torn apart would be mended. This dream of free. He had a dream for you and for me. What will we do with it? Who will we be? We got to stand up, shout and be heard. We got to let our heart guide our words. We got to steady our feet and say, what would it be like if you were king for a day? Would you feed those who hunger, refresh those who thirst? Would you welcome the stranger and comfort the sick? Would you clothe the naked and set captives free? Would you work for justice to bring about peace? Would you hope for the future, unsure what it brings? Would you have the
Well, that was fantastic. So the flaming chalice is our Unitarian Universalist symbol of both the heritage of our past and the light of hope within this congregation today. Please light your own chalice this morning as we light our chalice. I will share the words of Reverend Kimberly Carlson. Recognizing the beauty around us and within us, in voice and spirit, we gather to light our chalice. May we savor the beauty of our abundance and diversity, always cherishing one another and our earth. May we remember to inhale the lushness in life, knowing that we are a people of beauty. And our chalice lighting song this morning is number 362, Rise Up, O Flame.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, rise up, O flame, show thy light glowing, show beauty, vision, and joy.
I invite you to join me in reciting our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church, the quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. Our Time for All Ages honors Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which is tomorrow, and will be presented by Kid President himself.
Once upon a time, there's a man named Martin Luther King Jr. It's funny to think about because now we know his name so well, but at one time he was just a kid. Like maybe you're a kid watching this. Well, he was a kid too. Well, maybe you're a grown-up. That's okay too. Former kids are welcome here. I don't discriminate. Martin Luther King grew up to be a great man, of course, but things weren't all that great in the world while he was growing up. Not everybody was treated like they were somebody. And I believe that you should treat everybody like it's their birthday. But they didn't do that. People looked at the color of their skin. And that's how they decided if they were friends or not. Not cool, man. That didn't make him feel good. That didn't make anybody feel good. But his parents helped him grow up. He went to church. He learned about love. He grew up to be a minister to help a lot of people. He did all sorts of cool stuff. He helped a lot of people learn about love too. But still, he looked around and said, things should be better. He wanted to change things, so he did stuff. He decided, instead of spreading the hate, he would spread the love. He wanted to bring people together. Where people were hurting, he stepped in to help. He marched with them, he walked with them. He walked arm in arm with everyone. And sometimes it didn't go well, but he kept going. Sometimes he ended up in prison, but he kept going. Some people didn't like him, but he kept going. Some days were hard, but he kept going. Love does that, it just keeps going, even when things are dark. And, well, I don't like this part of the story, but things did get pretty dark. Someone who didn't agree with him shot him. He died in April 1968. Now, keep pressing it. Why are you telling us this sad story? Come on. I know. I'm sorry, but it happened. I don't like that happened. Now, I gotta tell you something. When things aren't awesome, it can be tough. And things will always be awesome, but your response can be. Martin Luther King's response? It was awesome. Today I just wanted us to think about this. Isn't it cool that we can change things? Like any of us, anybody. He dreamed and he changed things. And he dreamed and he kept sharing his dreams. They became not just his dream, a lot of people's dream. Like this one. I have a dream that little black boys and black girls will join hands with white boys and white girls and become sisters and brothers. That's a pretty good dream. Let's dream like that. That could change things. Add the honor of being Dr. King's son, Dr. Martin Luther King III.
So big thank you there to Kid President, and we certainly wish for all Americans to take a peaceful moment tomorrow to remember Martin Luther King Jr. and the ideals for which he dreamed. We have made progress, but there is much, much more still to do. Today's joys and concerns will be shared by a representative of the pastoral care team, Melissa Trask.
Hello. As we share our joys with others, those joys are multiplied. When other hearts know our joy shines all the brighter. As we share our concerns, our community can offer us care. When other hearts know our sorrow, our burden becomes lighter. This is the time in our service when we offer witness and support to one another's journeys. Please post in the chat if you have a joy or concern that you would like to share with everyone today, and for those who will be watching the recording later. Joys and concerns can be submitted at any time via email to the pastoral care team or through the web form located on the care and support page of the church's website. This week's joys and concerns include, so the first one's going to be a little difficult, and it's a concern from J. Dawes. It says, "It is with great sadness that I have this announcement to make. Thursday, January 14th, our dear friend and longtime member of Westside, Beverly Archibald, passed away at the home of her son, Paul. Paul called me Friday to tell me of her passing. Beverly has been living with Paul and his family in Haltom City for a couple of years, and as of this past October, she has been in and out of the hospital and rehab centers. On Monday, January 11th, she came home with hospice care. She was with her loving family at the time of her death. Any services for her are unknown at this time, and I am sure Westside will want to hold a celebration of life for her whenever we can gather together again." There's a joy from Linda and Myron Ice, and he says, "Linda and Myron celebrated their 27th wedding anniversary last Friday. Wendy Casper said, I am joyful that I was able to get my first COVID-19 vaccine last Monday." And also a joy from Janelle Weaver said that Reverend Frida came through her surgery well and is at home recovering. Joy from Charlie Ford. He says, "I'm alive and recovering on this Diane and I 6th anniversary." And thank you for sharing those with us. It is good to share with one another as sharing draws our community closer together. Please know that our pastoral care associates are available to support you with deep listening and, when needed, through our InReach Fund for short-term financial support of members in need. I also had one last joy come in from Monica Ray, who's my cousin, and she said my friend Jessie, who was in the hospital rehab center due to COVID, was released this Friday and is fully recovered. And last of all, we are here for you.
Thank you, Melissa. This morning's centering song is number 391, Voice Still and Small.
Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still will remain singing.
On the wings of this music, I invite you to join me in a time of centering. Each week here at Westside, we open our hearts to those in our community who know both joys and challenges, and to all suffering beings. I'll begin with a brief pastoral introduction before we move into a time for silent reflection. At that point, I will ring the bell to signal the start of the time for your own meditation, prayer, or reflection, and I will ring the bell again at the end. I invite you to close your eyes and check the alignment of your spine as I begin. Spirit of life and love and hope, let our hearts be full of love and excitement as we share in the joys among this community. And let our spirits reach out in compassion to all who know sorrow as well, offering a loving presence to those in pain, whether spoken or too painful to share. Remind us of our connection to each other, and may that connection bring us great peace. May it be so, blessed be, and amen. Westside has been a member of the South Central Alliance of Churches, or SCAC, since moving to the South Central area of Fort Worth. SCAC is a social service agency that provides rent and utility assistance to our neighbors in our and our neighboring zip codes that have experienced an unexpected crisis, such as transportation breakdown, illness, house or apartment fire, caring for grandchildren, or job loss. During the pandemic, SCAC's single source of funds for direct aid are donations from its 6 member churches. As you can imagine, there is more need than available funds, and the Alliance finds itself turning down eligible clients every month. Please help keep our neighbors warm, clean, and from experiencing homelessness by making a donation of any amount. If you use the Give Plus app, please select the Service Project Fund, and all funds collected in January for this designated fund will be forwarded to the SCAC. Thank you for your generosity, and enjoy our own Dr. Yuki Kumamoto playing Sonata No. 2, the second movement by Rachmaninoff. Thank you again for your generosity. And now we will turn our attention to Minister Emeritus, Dr. Russell Elleven.
Hey, everybody. Good morning, Westside. I can't begin to tell you how excited I am to, in some sense, be with you all today. But to be honest, this is not how I envisioned my first time back to Westside. I'd hoped to be in Fort Worth at 901 Page, shaking hands, hugging necks, admiring what you all had done to the place, talking about those Westsiders who have died and those who love them. But that is not how it is to be today. We meet at a distance, without touch, over a computer screen, with me in Illinois rather than anywhere near Texas. And while there is some disappointment that our reunion will not be the ideal I imagined, I eagerly accepted the opportunity to deliver today's reflection at Westside. I'm grateful for Reverend Gillespie reaching out to me, and would like to also mention Reverend Woodbury had reached out to me on many occasions as well during her time at Westside, but we could never make the dates work for those times I was in Texas visiting. So again, while meeting this way online is not what I'd hoped, it actually has allowed me to be with you, at least for a Sunday, when it would not have otherwise been possible. And for that, I am very grateful. It is so good to be with you, even if remotely. Well, you may have wondered, or at least those of you who knew me during my time at Westside might be wondering, hey, Russell, what have you been doing since you left Westside in 2013? And while there are many things I could talk about, one of the things I have done that I'm most proud of, and may come as a bit of a surprise to many of you, is reading the Bible in its entirety from cover to cover. It's no secret the Bible can be difficult to read, and even more difficult when someone tries to interpret these ancient texts as having relevance to the lives we live today. Some read and believe one thing, another reads the same text and believes something entirely different. It's hard sometimes, I believe, to read the Bible with true clarity. A teacher once asked her Sunday school class to draw pictures of their favorite Bible stories. She was puzzled by a boy's picture which showed 4 people on an airplane. So she asked him which story it was meant to represent. The flight to Egypt, he replied. I see. And that must be Mary, Joseph, and the baby Jesus, the teacher said. But who's the 4th person? Oh, that's Pontius, the pilot. And we can read or hear the same biblical text and come up with very different answers. Now, you may have assumed that most ministers, even Unitarian Universalist ministers, have read the Bible in its entirety. But I'd be willing to bet many traditional ministers and most UU ministers haven't read the Bible from cover to cover. You see, in most seminaries and divinity schools, a student can sort of major in things that are of most interest, much like they did in college. Some students might study more church history than others. Other students might focus more on pastoral care and counseling. Some might concentrate on the Hebrew Bible, while others focus on the early Christian writings. I, on the one hand, focused on world religions in my first divinity degree, and on the other hand, studied pastoral care for the doctoral degree. I never had to read the Bible in its entirety nor did I really want to. Now, I tried to do this before. On several occasions, to read the whole Bible, I had tried, but I'd get bored or I'd get discouraged that it was taking so long. So I'd set it aside, thinking that perhaps one day I'd try again. But this time, I attempted a new strategy. After reading each book of the Bible, I'd then read the book of my choosing. After finishing the book I wanted to read, I'd then go back and read another book of the Bible. It did take a long time, but I read the New Oxford Annotated Bible with the Apocrypha from cover to cover, along with all the notes or annotations in the New Revised Standard Version, some 2,300 pages. It's a big damn book. I'm glad I did it. I learned a great deal, appreciated the collection of books more than I did before, and while I'm not a biblical scholar by any means, I do believe I understand the Bible better now. I've considered doing the same thing with the Quran. We'll have to see. As I read the earliest books of the Bible, I read often about tribes, the 12 tribes of Israel, how they fought for the land of Canaan after escaping from Egypt where they were enslaved. They had discovered a God who was somewhat kind, but also angry and jealous and militant. A God that told them he would protect them as long as they believed only in him, not the many other gods worshipped by others, and followed the law which had been directly handed to Moses from the divine. The Israelites believed this God had chosen them, actively chose them, over all of the other people in the known world to be God's people. There was a covenant or contract between God and the Israelites, and together they wreaked havoc over the land, killing people, lots of people. To read the brutality of the battles where nothing was left, no men, no women, no children, no animals, utter devastation by God's chosen people. So frightening were these God-led Israelites that some outsider tribes would simply surrender in advance, choosing to become their slaves instead of death in battle. So these escaped slaves from Egypt would then enslave people just as they had been enslaved. The conquered had become the conquerors, and they behaved like conquerors until they themselves were conquered again by the Babylonians and Nebuchadnezzar. The temple built by King Solomon, David's son, was destroyed, and God's chosen people were dispersed. But this idea, the idea that your group or group of groups has a special relationship with God, can be quite dangerous, I think. If you, your group or group of groups, is chosen by God, then by God, others should stay out of the way and not ask questions, because questioning the group questions God. But if the Babylonians are able to come in as they did around 586 BCE and destroy Solomon's temple and send the Jews into exile, what does this mean? Did God forsake the Jews? No, that would be impossible. It must be something we have done or not done that has allowed this atrocity to occur to God's chosen people. So the prophets cry out, and they try to bring the people back into covenant with God. Of course, the Christians would do this too. Many years down the road, they too would believe themselves to be chosen by God. But what we all seem to forget is that what we call the early Christians were not Christians at all. They were Jews. Jesus most certainly believed himself to be a Jew, not a Christian. Jesus taught in synagogues. People called him rabbi. His own words in the Gospel of Matthew say distinctly, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law and the prophets. I have not come to abolish, but to fulfill." Amen, I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one iota or one stroke of a letter will pass away from the law until everything has taken place. So whoever annuls one of the least of these commandments and teaches people to do so will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever obeys and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. There were theological struggles. Must one be a Jew in order to become a Christian? It was a big question, one that Jesus' brother, James, who became the head of the Jerusalem church, was adamant about. If Gentiles, non-Jews, wanted to become followers of Jesus, said James, they must first become Jews, and that required adult male circumcision. Paul, on the one hand, while professing greatly his Jewish faith, allowed adult males into his churches without circumcision, while Peter, on the other hand, at least initially wanted to keep Judaism intact, although I guess not the penises. It didn't happen right away, but the Jewish followers of Jesus would eventually leave or be forced out of the synagogues and into their homes. They would write to one another for encouragement and to uplift spirit. These letters would eventually be held as holy scriptures, inspired or actually written by the one true God. Christians eventually came to believe their faith superseded Jewish faith. Biblical scholars actually call this supersessionism. And Christians would later go out of their way to villainize Jews and often give them the choice between converting to Christianity or death. The persecuted have once again become the persecutors. And it is easy to see how this idea of being actively chosen by God comes to America on the Mayflower, even calling America the new Israel. Just like the Israelites escaping from Egypt, the Puritans escaping religious persecution believed they were chosen by God. The indigenous people of America, not so much. These new Americans believed it their duty to convert the indigenous Americans, and failing that, to kill them or move them. It was believed to be our divine or manifest destiny to expand the country to the West Coast. The creator of the term, John O'Sullivan, said, "America had a manifest destiny to overspread the continent allotted by providence. And since it was divinely inspired or ordained by God, it gave some people, many people, in fact, a great deal of latitude in their dealing with the native people, their land, and their freedom." Once again, those who were at one time pursued have now become the pursuers. Once again, the strong will overpower after having once been overpowered. It almost seems to be something we can see in history repeating itself again and again, and yet we don't often see it. We become historically myopic, and sometimes that nearsightedness is because we have become part of the group in power. What most religions try to do, it seems to me, is to keep their adherents in line and restrict membership if necessary. So in order to show allegiance, there are all these tests one might have to pass in order to be allowed into the group. You might have to believe certain things, or at least say you do. You might have to perform certain rituals. Heck, you may even be told back in the day that in order for you to be in our group, you must have the tip of your penis cut off. Now, needless to say, that is not what I believe Unitarian Universalism is. We are not typically excluders. Instead, we are radically inclusive. We have no creed, so we do not require you to say certain words to be included. We have no test of faith, so you do not have to believe or say you believe things that do not ring true for you. You do not have to read or say you have read the New Oxford Annotated Bible with Apocrypha from cover to cover, although that is pretty impressive. Unitarian Universalism is a religion of becoming. It isn't stagnant. It continues to evolve as we reveal and understand more and more about ourselves and our place on this planet. And that, my friends, is a major difference, in my opinion, one we should not overlook. We are not yet what we can be as a religious movement. We are still learning and evolving. But we are a faith tradition that understands we must continue to try and do better. And because of that, I'm glad to be here. And I'm glad you are here too. Peace and blessings to you all. I look forward to meeting folks after the service.
Well, thank you, Reverend Elleven. It was really good having you back in our pulpit today, even if it was all the way from Illinois. So for all of us, before we go to the question and answer meet and greet, I guess, I'd like you to all join us in singing our closing hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us, led by the First Unitarian Church of Baltimore.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us, will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us,
Our closing words are from Reverend Amy Morgenstern. Blessed is the dark in which our dreams stir and are revealed. Blessed is the dark of earth where seeds come to life. Blessed are the depths of the ocean where no light shimmers, the womb of all earthly life. Blessed is the light into which we awake, the light that sparkles on the waters, that calls the tree forth from the seed and calls the shadow forth from the tree. Blessed are we as we move through darkness and through light. And as we extinguish our chalices this morning, please join me in the congregational closing. Let us go in peace, believe in peace, and create peace in our lives and in the world. May it be so, blessed be, and amen.